answer Jasmine's question today about UX interviews. And she wrote to me, can you do a video on the process of UX interview? What I should prepare? Will your interviewers ask you to sketch on the spot? So my friend, who's also a product designer, and I were talking about this recently because nowadays it's hard to find jobs even for designers who've worked full-time 2 to 3 years, and that's because companies are now being very specific about what kind of product designers they want to hire. So they might want someone who is very proficient at information architecture or interaction design. And I just finished a round of interviews with this new company that I'll be working for, which is exciting. So this topic is pretty fresh on my mind, and I wanted to give a very high-level view of what UX interviews look like. A caveat is that I didn't interview with a lot of companies. I've only interviewed with 2 companies to which I was both hired. So I do think I'm pretty good at interviewing once I get through the phone screen process. Applying to jobs for UX positions is actually pretty easy and not time consuming at all because you just fill out your basic information, you put your portfolio URL, your resume, and submit. Whereas other jobs I worked in, like marketing, you have to tailor your resume to the job description and everything. So it's very easy to just mass apply for UX design positions and you just wait to hear back, but sometimes that doesn't work. So I've used LinkedIn a lot and referrals. So I would ask for referrals from people that I know or friends of friends, and through that my resume can reach the recruiter faster if I have a referral. So those are the 2 avenues that I use most frequently to job search. First phone call you have is with the recruiter. They'll ask you questions about your background, and they might ask you to walk through your portfolio. And at that time, you're on the phone, and so they're looking at your website, so make sure that they have all the information, if you're password locking things. And you just kind of tell what project you've been working on and what you're good at. That's around 30 minutes to an hour, and then if you pass that round, they'll schedule you a phone call with the hiring manager, which is usually the director of design. Once you're talking with the hiring manager through a phone call or a video chat, they will ask you to go over 1 or 2 case studies. So this takes about an hour, and they might ask you other questions like, what are you looking forward to in this new role? Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years as a designer? How do you make sure that you're growing as a designer? What are ways that you grow? How do you take in feedback? What are you most excited about when designing for things? Are you more focused on visual, information architecture, interaction, UI, or the UX? Are you more interested in research? So they'll be asking a lot about what you're interested in as well, so you should come prepared for that. I always ask for feedback at the end of that phone screen because I think it always leaves a positive impact on the hiring manager when you ask for feedback, and that tells them that you're not going to take things personally. So I always thank them for their time, and I ask them for their feedback if they have any so that I can improve, and that I'm always looking for ways to improve my designs and my portfolio and the way I tell my story. After you pass your phone screen, they will bring you on site. Some companies have a 1-day on-site, other companies have a 2-day on-site. I've had both, and so the 1-day on-site is probably 2 to 3 hours or even 4 hours. You'll present your portfolio, and you might have a design challenge, or you might have a take-home design challenge. So the first interview that I did, they gave me a design challenge to do over the weekend, and they'll give you like a time frame. You shouldn't take more than 5 hours, but I mean, honestly, I think people spent more time in it depending on how desperate you are to take that position and how much you want that position. So I definitely overdid my 5 hours, and I was honest about it. I was like, I spent more than what I was supposed to spend, and here are my designs. They didn't really ask me to come prepared to present my portfolio, but I did it anyway because I don't know, you just never know. I did, 2-3 minutes of introduction, and then 15 minutes of one case study, and another 15 minutes of my second case study. In the last 15 minutes, I talked about my design challenge. This portfolio review was with all the designers, which there were, I think, 5 designers in that room, and they drilled me with questions. They were like, what if you changed that to here? Or like, what if you moved that bar down below? Like, what else would you do? If you didn't have a researcher helping you, how would you validate your designs. They also asked me what other websites I looked at, and then I also had a one-on-one with some PMs and UX researchers in that company. So overall, it was like 2 to 3 hours. And because this was my first UX interview, I really wanted to do my best. So I printed my resume and my slide deck with like little sticky notes that they can write notes. And I told them that if they wanted to ask me questions afterwards, they can just write the notes here and make comments later. And I learned this from a designer who said he's brought sticky notes in the past and people loved it. It really felt like he was in control of the presentation. And I also brought thank you cards that I illustrated, and I just wanted to show them that I was very excited about design because I was breaking into the market. I wanted to be very distinct in my application and in my interview process. So with a 2-day on-site interview that I had with another company, the first day I met up with a PM and a designer, and I also did a portfolio review that was 45 minutes and 15 minutes for questions. Then I did a whiteboard challenge with 2 other designers. It was pretty nerve-wracking because I've never had to do a whiteboard challenge before, and so I was Googling and searching on Medium, asking other product designers if they had any tips for acing the whiteboard challenge. And so I wrote a lot of notes down and questions down, and I'll put some of the resources down below in the description box if you're interested in learning more about what whiteboard challenges are. I go in, they give me the prompt, and I'm just speaking out loud all my thought process and drawing out how I would approach this problem, and I would save the last 10 minutes on whiteboarding and just like drawing wireframes. And I think it's always important to ask for feedback, so I would make sure that I'm asking questions to them, what their thoughts were, if they had any feedback on like this different direction I should take when I'm stuck in this like part of the whiteboard challenge, then I would like converse with them because they're really wanting to see if you're a team player. On the second day, I was quite surprised that it was 4 to 5 hours long because I thought I was almost done. But no, I did another portfolio review with the rest of the design team, which was about 8 people. Had one-on-ones with a tech lead, with a PM, and then with 2 designers. So like overall 30-minute one-on-ones with 5 different people. During the process, they asked me a lot about what my interests were, if I had any questions for them. So had I not prepared questions for them, I would have just sat there in the room 30 minutes with them. I don't know what I would have talked about. And so I'm really glad I came up with a lot of questions beforehand, and I brought my notebook and I said, oh yeah, I do have a lot of questions. So I did a lot of research on who they were, what kind of projects they might be doing. With this specific company, I was really impressed with the recruiter because he just filled me in with all the details of like what I should be expecting. Oh, and I did a app critique. So what that means is like for 30 minutes, they asked me to pull out my phone and they'll ask me to like go to this app. For example, let's say Google Maps. What else would you do different about this experience? Like how would you utilize ads, or how would you sort your search? They asked a lot of questions on specific features and what I would design differently. Some last words on how to do really well in your UX interviews. I think number 1 is practice your presentation over and over again. I would practice my presentation at home and in front of other designers, and I would also ask for feedback. I think this really helps when you know your content so well in and out, you know your designs in and out, then when they ask you a question, you're like, oh yeah, I know the answer to that question. Here's how I would solve it. Or, oh, that was something that I had thought of when I was exploring different designs, but I had come up with this solution because of XYZ reasons. So if you know your designs and the content of your portfolio really well, you'll do really great at these design portfolios. I know it seems really like nerve-wracking, like presenting in front of other designers. What if they're gonna rip me apart? And if you don't know how to answer their question, it's okay to be like, let me think about that for a minute because I haven't thought about that. You just kind of give yourself a minute, think, and say, you know, these are some of the questions I would ask before I design, but right now I don't really have like a solid answer, but like here are some other explorations I would do. So that way you're not giving them a definitive answer. What they really want to know is not that you have this one answer that's going to enlighten all of us. No, they just want to know if you can think on the spot, if you know how to ask the right questions, and that you communicate your thought process really well. Another thing is follow-ups. Follow-ups are so important. So whenever I talk to a recruiter or the hiring manager or anyone, I try to follow up and say, hey, I really enjoyed talking with you. If you have any feedback for me, feel free to let me know. I would love to improve my skill set. Having that follow-up is going to communicate to the people that are interviewing you that you're being attentive, that you also care a lot about growing yourself. I got so scared because my camera just shut down. It's too hot, so I think I have to end this video. But if you have other questions about UX interview processes and things that you want me to cover more, feel free to write comments down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!